All right, a very good morning, everyone, from the flight deck once again. Welcome to another stream of A Pilot's Life with Captain Naps here on Twitch. Welcome aboard, everybody. We are back for what is Season 7. Season 7 of A Pilot's Life on Twitch. So I have been doing this now for entirely too long. But yeah, I've been doing this for 6 seasons so far, which means I've done probably about somewhere between 60 and 70 flights of my Pilot's Life career. And here we are back for another one. I just enjoy this software so much. I think it creates such an interesting mission. I spend so much time, and somebody else commented to me the other day, and it's exactly right. I spend so much time sometimes booting up my sim and trying to decide what to fly, where to fly, what airports do I have, what airplanes do I feel like flying, how much time do I have, so much kind of decision making. And I often waste the first 30 to 40 minutes of my sim session just thinking about what I'm going to do today. So that's what I really love about A Pilot's Life. Is it gives you a mission to do. You don't have much choice about it. It's just here are the flights, and go fly them. And it's really interesting like that. That's how the real world functions. Obviously, the pilots don't choose the routes they do. I mean, they do to a certain degree during a monthly bid and everything. But at the end of the day, the airline assigns the flights, based on seniority and everything else. So you end up having a whole array of flights that you have to fly, like them or not. So that's kind of what I'm enjoying about this. So today, for those of you that cannot tell or didn't bother to read the stream title, we are sitting here, and it's printed right there on the screen in giant letters, but we are sitting here at DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth in Texas. It's a well-done airport. This is one of the default what do they call it? The bespoke airports. So one of the more detailed default airports. I believe this came out with the America's World update. They came out with a very relatively detailed version of DFW, and it looks pretty good from our perspective here. You can see up above us there the train, the little train that circles the whole airport. You can see right through the glass in the station. The building looks overall pretty good. Ground clutter and detail, everything's fairly accurate. It's not just generic buildings. They are custom model buildings, and it looks like probably custom textures there as well. So it overall looks like a great building. So it's going to be our hub for this next season. So this is season 7. We're going to be working for American Airlines. And why do we choose American Airlines? Good morning, Squibbly. Nice to see you. Why do we choose American Airlines? I emphasized this in my last stream, but I'm going to just repeat it again for anybody who didn't care to watch it. At the end of the day, we're flying a 320 today, but the real reason why I chose American Airlines is because they also operate 737s. And we all know what 737 is coming to Microsoft Flight Simulator very soon. And probably there's a good chance it'll be out before I finish this month of A Pilot's Life. So that's why I've opted to fly for American. I kind of went for a couple of American carriers that had 737s. And 320s. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for that 737 to release, we're going to play here with the FlyByWire A320. And we are going to take it today from, and you know what I didn't even do? I didn't even actually open up A Pilot's Life here. So here it goes. We're going to take it from Dallas-Fort Worth, DFW, to Des Moines, Iowa. Show me. There it is. DFW to Des Moines, Iowa. It's not a particularly exciting route, not glamorous or anything, but it is probably another one of those workhorse routes that an airline just does because, of course, it makes money and it feeds all of their bigger, much more glamorous overseas flying. And that's the way the hub and spoke model works. You get a lot of smaller airports that maybe you don't get a lot of necessarily direct traffic between Dallas and Des Moines, but what you get is you get a lot of connection traffic. And that's how the airlines make their money these days, is connecting people from these smaller cities onto the bigger aircraft. And we're starting to see a shift away from the hub and spoke and more direct flying as we get rid of 777s, 747s. We start moving into the slightly smaller heavies, the 350 and the 87. The hub and spoke model is changing somewhat, but it's not going to die completely. It's an efficient model. It makes good use of the resources that are available. So yes, we will see a bit more direct flying than we have in the future. Maybe we'll just see more hubs kind of open up, but you're never going to get Des Moines to Paris, France, or something like that. So there will always be kind of a need for the hub and spoke model. It's been a while since I've opened up A Pilot's Life here. I opened it up yesterday for the first time in a while. I've made some money. I have $1,500 in my bank account. I've got some experience points, almost 500. We're getting there. I've done 67 total flights to 29 different airports and accumulated 170 hours in this career. Not that much per se. I know guys have a lot more than this, but I've done this all live on Twitch as well, and that's the one thing that, of course, differentiates me a little bit. Uh, yeah, so this is our schedule for the month. Squibbly, I'll talk to you in a second about that. DFW, Des Moines, and then back again. And then I kind of like some of this other stuff that we do in here. It's kind of interesting. It's not just the out and back, but we got a couple of triangles going on here. So we do DFW down to JFK, Los Angeles. Do the transcontinental service here, JFK down to Los Angeles before we come back to DFW. And then again, we go up to New York. We go to LaGuardia this time and down to Miami and back to DFW. And then finally, we end with a turn to Burbank and back and a turn to St. Louis. So, yeah, it's going to keep us busy for quite a while. Some of these are long flights. That JFK to LAX flight is going to be a long one. But we're going to still do it all live on stream here, so stick with me. What can I say? There's not much that has happened here. I have gotten paid a couple of times. I didn't even make that much money. The last time I got paid for flying was in February. And then there have been a couple of updates as well. We mentioned this before, that a Pilot's Life version 2 is actually in development. So I don't know what this all entails. He's been keeping it fairly under wraps, but there is a second version of this. So I guess this one's kind of finished, as it were, and we're going to be moving on to a second version. But so much to update, but I kind of want to get going here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And Squibbly, yes. So in the chat, you were saying that I flew to Hamilton the other day and not Waterloo when you were on Waterloo Tower. And I honestly didn't even see it was you on Waterloo Tower. So I apologize for that. The reason why I didn't fly to Waterloo was because I was actually doing an FS economy flight. I still enjoy doing FS economy. I do lots of them, not lots of them, but I do them at least a couple times a week. I do an FS economy flight. That was an FS economy flight, so I had to get to Hamilton. Hamilton was the destination. I had to deliver the cargo there, and I was also on a bit of a time crunch and trying to get the flight done before I ran out of time. So I will try to keep an eye open for you next time, and I'll try to give you some activity. But yeah, I apologize for that. I was out of Barry. I wasn't picking that by choice. I don't know what's wrong with Barry. Why would you want to fly out of Springwater? Yeah, I had actually cut short. I had started a FS economy flight from Perry Sound down to Hamilton. I got about halfway and realized I was going to have time to finish it. So I had two choices. I could either cancel it and restart it, or I could just drop down into an airport that was nearby and then restart it. So that's what I actually did. Was I dropped down and then I restarted the flight a couple hours later and finished it off and got my delivery done. So just try to get that done, but I will try to keep an eye open for you, and we will have to do some controlling at some point together here. All right, we got the flight deck going here. We got me in the flight deck here. Hey, everybody. So what we're going to do today is we are taking the FlyByWire A320. It's not a bad product. It's not great. It's quite good. It does still have certain things that are not modeled properly, things that are not complete. So it's not complete. That's the problem with the product, is it's not complete. It's not that it's a bad product. The things that are generally being done are being done well. It's that lots of stuff is not complete yet and is in progress. So it will eventually happen. I did read Squibbly. You wrote a couple comments in the Discord about this aircraft. I have been flying it for about a week now, so I think I've got it set up the way I like it. Yes, there are the three branches. There's the experimental, the development, and the stable version. And the experimental is literally changed every day, multiple times a day. Literally, as developers are writing it, they're pushing new stuff into it. You often end up breaking stuff at the same time. That's why it's the experimental version. So for streaming, I don't think the experimental version is suitable. I've gone with the development version. You could go with the stable version, but as you said in the Discord, the stable version is so far behind, it's probably not a viable option. Just in terms of functionality, I really want to have at least a little bit more of the functionality. So I'm in the development version. I think it's a good version. It is very stable still. The development version runs well. It doesn't have all the features that are maybe being pushed into experimental, but it's still a good version. I like it, and we're going to run with that today. And of course, as much as the plane needs fuel, the pilot needs fuel. So I'm going to continue sipping my coffee. The other thing we're going to have today, helping us along here, is good old FS2Crew. And we do have the FlyByWire A32NX project. Just give it a second to launch here. There it goes. But this is I like this product as well. I think this is a good product. It adds a lot of immersion. It makes flying this airplane quite easy. And open app panel, please. There we go. And there we go. And we've got everything in here. I'm just going to mute the microphone because he's going to start listening to me. But yeah, he'll do all sorts of stuff for us. He'll help to help this thing get rolling a lot faster. So we're going to definitely be using FS2Crew to our advantage today. The other thing, of course, as always, is we are also going to be using self-loading cargo, which I've got here. And the one thing I need to run for it to run properly is FSUIPC. So here comes FSUIPC. You'd think I was ready, but I wasn't really totally ready. I was almost totally ready, and then I plugged in my headset and crashed the simulator and had to start everything again. So one thing I don't like about Microsoft Flight Simulator is that anytime you change anything, it kills the simulator. All right, so we got A320. I don't have any other cabin layouts, but we are going to use American Airlines as our audio pack, sound pack. Going to import my data from SimBrief here. Leaving DFW by 10:15 is our proposal, and land in Des Moines, arrive at the gate by 12:15. I guess this is really 9:15 DFW time, so 11:15 in Des Moines. That all looks good, so we're going to go ahead and start that up, and I'm going to show you some of the neat stuff that this airplane can do, because I like this airplane. I think it's got lots of kind of neat features to it. There's lots of stuff that can be done even better, and I'm waiting for some of the stuff to improve, but there are some neat features here. So let me just put on my hat as always. There we go. And we can get this show started, and FS2Crew will get this show started for us if I just unmute myself. Let's get set up. Let's start setting up.
Okay.
There you go. Sometimes you just gotta get that keyword. And one thing I like about FS2Crew too is it does a lot of this stuff for you. It brings in the bridge. It'll open the door for us. It'll bring in the bridge if it's not already docked. He'll put the power to the airplane for you, so some of the stuff's done. But I like the fact that it brings the bridge on. That's so nice. I don't have to even click a button. As long as I just say the words, they're gonna do that. So go ahead and tell self-loading cargo we're ready to start boarding, and we're going to move that out of the way for now.
As soon as you're ready, you can open the doors and start letting the passengers on board. Thank you.
One thing I find with this airplane when you fire it up is that people have turned the brightness knobs all the way down.
No problem.
And if it's daytime, it's almost impossible to see what you're doing. Turn those right up. There we go. Now we can see what's going on there.
I'm out for the walk around.
Okay. All right, and so some neat stuff. There's lots of neat stuff in this product here. Let me just bring this up here. So the MCDU, there's quite a few neat things in this. One of the neatest things that I really do like, I really like this, is that there is a server. So I've got FlyByWire MCDU server running here. What this is basically, this is like AviaWorks. This basically is a small web server that outputs your FMC on a web server web page, so that you can use it with a tablet or another device of any kind, your phone, computer, anything. It's just a web server, it's just a web page. And you can even allow it to print stuff directly to your printer. So if you get ACAR's message, you can literally send it to the printer. I'm not going to be doing that. But there it is, listing for connections. In a second, it's going to get its little chime here, I hope. Oh, don't prove me wrong now. Why? It's not like the... Oh, for crying out loud. Now today it won't work. I'm here to show things off and it won't work. Let's just do this real quick. I swear it worked yesterday. So the other thing, of course, that this aircraft does have a little EFB here, which lets us keep... which lets us set up the aircraft. We can import stuff from SimBrief. Why is nothing importing? There we go. Okay. I was getting worried that nothing was going to work here. Where's the settings? Settings. Let's just have a quick check here. There we go. All right. So there we go. I didn't even know this was an option, so I'm actually learning something. So it will stop trying to make a connection and wasting your computer resources if you don't get a response within 5 minutes. So because I fired this airplane up a few minutes ago and then didn't have the server running, it just gave up trying to make a connection. So now it's connected successfully. And if I go to the host here, then I can bring up a web page that looks exactly like the MCDU, which I'm going to do on my tablet. As soon as I unlock my tablet, and here it is. So it looks exactly like the MCDU. It's exactly like the AvioWorks tablet. It's really quite handy for just sort of getting yourself off the screen and off the mouse. And I find that is the biggest problem with flight simming, is just everything is being clicked all the time. And the mouse is good for certain things, but it just becomes tiresome when you're doing it all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and start using this. Now there's some really neat features, again, buried in this MCDU and stuff that I want to show off because I really like it. And we're going to try not to waste too much time, but if we go to the ATSU and the AOC menu, what we have is a completely interactive data link system here. So we can go hit the init button. It's still a horrible angle, isn't it? Let's see if I can find a little bit more better top-down angle so you guys can see a little better. There we go. That's a little better. And you can type in all the information manually, but what I could do is, because on the EFB over there, I retrieved my information from SimBrief, I can just hit init data request, and it's going to fill in the basic information for my flight today. And one of the really neat features I like, is weather requests. So if you press weather request, you can get weather at any airport that you like. Oops. And now I'm trying to type in KDFW. Do it at multiple airports, of course. Hit send, and in a couple seconds we'll have a message there. We don't have it yet, but we'll have it in a minute. In the meantime, we're also going to the weight and balance section, and what we can do is just request information from our OFP, and it's going to tell us how many people are on board. We can tell it to start boarding, and it will slowly start loading those people in there. 1, 2, 3. So you get a realistic loading period as well, which is kind of fun. Now if I go back to receive messages, it should be here. Notice it says message from VATSIM. So this actually uses, you could choose what network, but I have selected VATSIM. It's going to actually retrieve the METAR via VATSIM. So I'm going to see the same METAR that controllers on the VATSIM network are seeing here. DFW today 1253 Zulu 204, 10 miles clear, 6 degrees, 1 degree, 3010 on the meter. So there we go. So now we've got our METAR. What's even better, and I can't demonstrate it right now, but I could actually. I just can't do it at DFW because we don't have any agency at DFW, but I'm just going to pick somewhere in America that does have DFW, or does have ATC right now. It's KCMH has some ATC right now. So if I do KCMH and hit send on that, wait a couple seconds for it to actually retrieve it, because it actually does have to go out to the network and retrieve it. But what's really, really neat, and I really like this, is that if you send for an ATIS, not just a weather request, but an ATIS, nope, not back yet, give it another couple of seconds, 3, 2, 1, try it again, nope. But what's really neat about this, and you're going to see in a second, is that it retrieves an actual ATIS from a controller on the VATSIM network. So if somebody has posted an ATIS, this gets the text version of that ATIS and delivers it right into your flight deck. There it is. So here's the ATIS that the controller in Columbus has posted on VATSIM. So if you're at a busy event, you don't even have to use your vPilot window. I don't even need to use my vPilot window here. I'm living completely in the simulator. I can get the METAR via a text via ACARS like you normally would. Yeah, switch it on arrival departure. In most cases, I don't think it's going to differentiate because
no issues
we rarely have either or here in VATSIM. But really, really just neat. I really love that feature because that's again, it keeps you in the sim. It just adds again another level, a little more depth of realism. So you're not bouncing out to your pilot client. Once you start your pilot client, forget it. Everything you need, changing the radios, accessing information, it's all done through through the simulator itself, which again just adds just that little bit of realism. So winds 204, so winds out of the south, very light, 8 degrees and 3010. And I could even print this if I had hooked up a printer with my web server. I could even hit print on here, and it would literally shoot a piece of paper out of the printer with this tar printed on it. A little bit wasteful, but if you're at a busy event, it could be useful. A nice option to have. Anyways, it doesn't have to. You can choose when to use that, so that's really nice. I don't know why I really popped out of this. We really need to be buried in the FMC for the next couple minutes. Actually, before we do that, let's just do a couple of things in the overhead panel here just to get us set up here. FMS is to nav, turn on all the fuel pumps. Turn on the oxygen supply, the lights are on, just are the emergency lights. No smoking, and one more thing that takes a realistic amount of time to do here. If I can just come back to the iPad for 1 second here, is loading fuel. That one, this one. I'm still kind of learning my way around this flight plan here, but if I go to the OFP, you'll see that it does actually have my SimBrief OFP loaded in here. And if I can just turn my head in a way that's going to actually make it work for me here. Total fuel for today's flight looks like 6430. So let's go ahead and load that. 6430. The only thing I don't like about this iPad is the slider's a little bit clumsy. I would love it if you could roll like the mouse button while you're owning the slider so you could be a little bit more accurate. See, it's very just sort of, it jumps in large portions. But there's refuel. You can have instant, fast, or realistic refuel. Of course, I want realistic. And it even gives you an estimate. 4 minutes. It's going to take 4 minutes for the fuel to flow. So now the fuel is flowing. If you even check on the displays here, you'll see that the fuel is going up slowly in a very realistic fashion. The only thing, no, actually it does have it. Yep, it does have the, even has the message there. It says refueling, so you know the fueling door's open. So, again, just a lot of like neat little immersion tricks.
Fort Worth departure Delta 222, ready for taxi 17 right.
You can click in the window and type the numbers. Oh,
Kilo,
thank you.
Hold short at Echo Fox.
Fuel pumps off for fuel loading. I didn't know that. Thank you. I had no idea. All right, there you go. I just learned something. Fuel pumps off for fuel loading. Kind of makes sense. Anyway, so let's start getting set up here. All right, I'm just going to type this in real quick here. So KD. Oops.
Hi, the security and safety check are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
Go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Yes.
We're just about to set up here, so we're happy for you to close the doors once
Yes.
everyone's on board. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
I actually finally got it. All right. KDFW slash
Okay, great. We're almost done.
KDSM. There we go. No flight plan. Preloaded. AAL. Don't need the fuel truck. AAL. What's our flight number today? Sorry, let me just pull up my flight plan over here. 1371. 1371. Cost index. Now, as I understand it, right now this doesn't do anything. I'm going to put it in out of habit because one day it's going to start working and I'm going to be ready to do it. But as I understand it, I think we just fly a constant Mach number right now. It's not, cost index is not. And cost index is a bit of a complex formula, so I wouldn't necessarily expect that to be one of the early features. But there's all sorts of neat little early features in here. Apparently you can use the Hoppy ACARS network as well with this FMC as well. I have not really used it very much, so I can't say for sure, but that's apparently. Now what you'll notice as well is doors keep opening and closing as we're going here. So even things like the fuel truck and the catering truck have been called automatically by the FS2 crew. So it just adds, it just takes a lot of like the manual clicking out. The activities still happen. It's still realistic. You can see the guys are loading baggage and everything down there, but it just sort of takes away a lot of the clicking to get stuff to happen. Stuff should happen automatically without you always clicking it all the time. All right, so in it, flight plan. It's a fairly simple flight plan today. I'm going to turn that background noise down again a little bit here. All right, fairly simple flight plan today. If I can just grab it. Come on. Here we are. So we're doing the Bleco 8 departure out of Dallas-Fort Worth. And I honestly don't know which way we're going to go out of DFW because it's sort of, our departure route is pretty much north. I don't know which runway we're going to do. I'm going to go with, let me think, we're on the Charlie side, so I'm going to go with 17 right for the shorter taxi. 17 right on the Bleco 8. The transition is Tulsa. Insert all of that. There's Tulsa. After Tulsa, we do Jet 25 to Des Moines. Easy. One airway after the SID. Jet 25. Come on. I do find the airways. It takes a couple seconds for it to search the airways and find the airway you're looking for. There it is. And you can actually start typing in the next thing. I should have just started typing in Des Moines while I was doing it. It takes a little while sometimes to scroll, just search through its database and find stuff. So I find that's a little bit sluggish sometimes, but otherwise, but it does find stuff. It is in there. It's good. It's good. It's all up to date. So it works. I'm not even going to worry about putting in an arrival for Des Moines yet. We'll get that once we get airborne. So that's it for the flight plan. We go back to the init page 2. And there's a neat little shortcut. So of course we got to type in our ZFW and our oh, I'm sorry, and I'm typing this here on my I'm putting this here on the FMS. You guys can't even see that because I had the whole thing blocked. Okay, but anyways, yeah, that was the flight plan there. So now we're on init page 2. Next time I'll try not to block the whole thing. I can see it on my tablet because it's right there. Yeah, so you could type in your ZFW and you could go back to the AOC page and pull it all up. You pull up your weight and balance here, and it will actually show you your weight and balance here on this page. ZFW 55.9 CFG, but even this is still changing as you go. So what you can do is, again, you go to the init page 2, and you just simply do the PMDG trick. You double click on it here. Click it once, it gives you the values. Click it again, it puts the values back in there. You can't work that for the fuel. For the fuel, you need to know how much fuel you've loaded, so let's just see if we're still loading fuel or not.
Forward traffic American 1177 coming out on 2 kilo from Echo Kilo, taxiing to 17.
It has loaded properly, so 6.6 in the tanks.
Forward traffic Delta 222 holding short of 17 right, lining up for departure on the Bleco 8 for 17 right.
All right, and I will get there eventually. That's last but not least is a performance page. So let's see here. I forget what the temperature was, but Squibbly, you put it in the chat here, so I'm just going to look there because I could switch it in the MCDU, but all right. Okay. Typing lots of stuff in there, and I'm going to come back and read that in a minute here. So departure info, sorry, 3009 on the meter, 7 degrees. That's what I'm looking for. So we're going to do a flap 1 takeoff because it's a nice long runway.
Forward traffic Delta 222, we're rolling for departure 17 right.
We're going to just use a flex temp of 30. I'm just sort of picking flex temps at random. And then again, just double click each of these buttons on the left side, V1, VR, V2. It will give you the calculated value and allow you to slip it right back in there again. So really straightforward. Doesn't have to be difficult. All right, and we've got ourselves set up. Now that the fueling's done, now I'll put the fuel pumps on. Thank you for that. I had no idea, and I will definitely try to keep that in mind in the future. All right, so I got no other white lights on the overhead panel. Everything appears to be in the normal location. Fueling's done. Seatbelts can go on. And we can quickly set ourselves up here for our departure. Something else I noticed too that seems to happen now in Microsoft Flight Simulator, please don't prove me wrong. The logins on Navigraph get remembered now. I don't know when that happened. I didn't notice that. I just this week though. I don't know when exactly that happened, but I just noticed that this week that the login for your Navigraph charts gets remembered now. It used to be every single time you boot up the sim, you'd have to log in again, and it was a pain in the butt because it just, you know, it's just a waste of time logging in over and over and over again. I mean, you can do it every once in a while to verify, absolutely, but not every single time you start the sim. If you start it 6 times a day, you do it 6 times. That's just ridiculous. So the top altitude on this is 10,000. So let's go ahead and get the top altitude 10,000 in there. The rest of it, we're going to fly in LNAV mode.
222, we're airborne, 1,500 feet.
And what do we say, 30?
After the turn on the Bleco 8 here, we'll climb
3009.
370. It's our last call. Have a good one.
3009, 3009 on the meter. I'll be getting going here soon. I want to be off the gate by quarter after, and I'm starting to wonder if that's going to happen here, but we're going to try. We'll turn the constraints on. We can't turn on the auto throttle. It won't let us arm it until we get, same with the auto brakes. Won't let us arm them until we get to a certain point in the start process here. Alright, I think we got almost everything else already set up here. We got Unicom up. I'm just going to change the transponder code to 2000.
DFW traffic, American 1177 lining up, departing runway 17 right, train 3.
Brakes are set. Everything's good. Alright, so since we don't have ATC online today to get a clearance, we're just going to do the briefing like this. Are you ready for the takeoff briefing?
Ready.
Alright, for any abnormality or taxial stops, this will be a left seat takeoff. Any malfunctions prior to the V1 of 131, I'll call stop or go. If the call is stop, I'll close thrust, levers, apply max brake, disconnect the auto throttle, apply max first, stop on the runway, set the park brake, call for any required memory items, curious checklists. The emergency turn off of the 17s here in DFW is to just fly runway heading. I know that from having been to DFW before. Alright, we're at gate Charlie 11, which should be, this is Charlie Terminal here, I believe we're right here on this corner, so we're going to probably go out via spot 24, and then northbound on Kilo to get to 17 right. No hot spots or runway crossings along that route. DFW is an airport that's been designed where runway crossings are an absolute minimum. They've got these, especially on the 17s now, they've got these wraparound taxiways at the north and the south end. The south end was first, the north end, they only just finished this last year. An airplane vacating on any one of these outer runways does not have to cross the active departure runway or any other runway to get to the terminal. They can go right around the end. There's actually a fence down here about 1,000 feet off the end of the runway with a big white-red checkerboard so that people who are lined up on this runway don't see airplanes taxiing on this taxiway. They can literally go around the bottom while someone departs over their head. So this is the future kind of airport design for trying to reduce runway incursions. DFW does it nicely. No runway crossings are required at DFW to get to or from any runway on the east half of the field. The west half hasn't been done, but I feel like it's something they're going to try and do on the west half as well. Alright, anywho. Yeah, fairly straightforward taxi out. The SID, it's a Bleco 8 RNAV departure. Bleco, I don't even know how you want to say it. Let's see here. This is on plate 60-3 Charlie, effective on the 10th of October of 2019. It's an RNAV SID. Bold notes or standard notes, radar required DDI or GPS RNAV 1. Turbojets only. Props, no. Aircraft arriving to Oklahoma, nope. Tulsa, transition for all aircraft will fly Tulsa VOR. Will Rogers transition.
We do ask that you give them your full undivided attention as they review the safety operations of this Airbus aircraft.
Alright, so for 17 right, climb heading 176, and what I should do as well, just while we're doing this, is just validate that the FMS has the same fixes in it. So let's do this where you can see both. So climb heading 176 to intercept a course of 157 to Spira. Yep. Then on track 107 to cross J-Girl at or above 5,000. Then on depicted route to Bleco. Top altitude's 10,000. I did set 10,000. Routing from Bleco on transition, maintain 10,000. Expect file 10 minutes after departure. And we do have Spira and J-Girl in there with the 5,000 foot restriction. And if you actually check out the chart here as well, Spira J-Girl is also max 240 knots until you pass J-Girl. Then we go to Quartz, Big D, Seymour, Bleco, and then Zema, Tulsa. That's all there. Terrain around DFW's 3,600 feet is the MSA. Weather is looks like a beautiful VFR day. Lovely day for flying. Operational, no MELs on this aircraft. There is some failures. We'll talk about that later. And NOTAMS, just a quick look over the NOTAMS here. And DFW is always one that has way too many NOTAMS. So I'm going to mostly focus on, do I see anything for our active departure runway? And I don't see anything for our active departure runway. Departures, Bleco 8 departure, 17 right. No. One thing I love about Lido is that it highlights things like runway numbers. So you can very quickly, in a giant block of text, look and see if your runway number is mentioned. So I do like the way they structure the NOTAMs. We have the 5G NOTAM here. 17 right. I don't see anything at all for 17 right. Okay, good. Perfect. No NOTAMs. All right. Any questions?
No questions.
Before start checklist down to the line.
Cockpit prep.
Completed.
Completed. Gear pins and covers.
Removed.
Signs.
On and auto.
Are you sure about that? Adheres.
Nav.
Fuel quantity.
6.6 kilograms. 6.6 kilograms. 6,600 kilograms. Come on. 6,600 kilograms. 6,600 kilograms. Set and checked.
Takeoff data.
Set. Set.
Aero ref.
3007 set.
3009. Set. Down to the line.
Yeah, what did I say? 3007? Close enough. Alright, he's good to go. The other thing I can do now is get pushback express ready. That's the only thing I have to click, and then pushback express will launch and do its thing completely. Alright, so the APU is starting. Oh, it says available. Let's just check it out here. It's just going really kind of chunky here while pushback express is starting. There, it's a little better now. Alright, the APU is up and running. Because the one thing with a pushback express, as soon as you start summoning pushback express, it disconnects everything. Jet bridge, ground power, everything. So make sure before you summon before you summon pushback express, of course you've got the ground power off. All right. And the other thing I'm going to do here is just check my FS2Crew. It says we're about 2 minutes.
Hey guys,
here.
are we clear to close?
Yes.
Thanks. Let me know if you need anything.
Don't get to lock the flight deck door. All right, and there goes the bridge. Awesome.
Hi, Captain. All passengers
Cockpit
are
to ground.
on board and doors
Go ahead,
have
flight
been
deck.
cleared.
We are ready for pushback. We will be ready in a minute.
Roger.
I always use the wrong command, and you have to say we're ready for pushback when you're actually ready to push. But you need a command just a second early just to actually get him to hook up the tug. Otherwise, it'll try to push without the tug. Oh, and I always confuse these commands these days. All right. Before start checklist below the line.
Speaking and on behalf of myself,
Windows and
the
doors.
officer and the cabin crew, I'd just like to give you a warm welcome on board the aircraft. As you may have noticed, we've
Closed.
now closed the doors and expect
Closed.
to depart in
Beacon.
just a few moments. If you could
On.
get yourself seated and secured while we're
Thrust
getting ready
levers.
for pushback, it would be most
Idle.
appreciated. If you require
Parking
any
brake.
assistance from the cabin crew, please press the button above your head and be sure to listen to the safety briefing that we'll be
Released.
in a few moments.
Before
You'll
start
hear from me
checklist
again
complete.
once we reach our cruising altitude,
sure
but
we're
now
doing
once
this as
again,
well.
welcome aboard and thank you for flying with us.
Oops, we need to select an aircraft, so I need to do. We are ready for pushback and engine start. We are ready for pushback and engine start. We are ready for pushback and engine start.
Roger. Release the parking brakes, please.
Brakes released.
Pushing back.
All right, here we go.
You are clear behind, and you can start your engines at your discretion.
Starting engine 2.
Check.
Cabin crew, please arm doors.
Doing my best to kind of. Oh, thanks, fuel truck. Doing my best to try and get us on the line. The FO is focusing on the start. Oh, and nothing starting. Why? Because I always forget in this airplane. For some reason, I always forget the APU bleed. Stop pushback. I don't know why. I always forget it.
Pushback complete. Set parking brakes, please.
That's going to be my mission today, for this season. Brakes are set.
Roger. Okay, the tow bar is disconnected and the equipment is clear. We will see you on the left side with the pin.
Thank you.
You are clear to disconnect and go to hand signals.
Thanks. Have a good flight. See you later.
Alright, so there goes the tug. He's all set. Did we turn the fuel pumps back on? We did. We covered it in the before start check, so there is a good chance to catch it if I do choose to do that. All right. So what did you say here? My suggestion: go back from to and type something random. Then init request in yellow will reappear. I'll import all this information for you. We'll import the flight plan, the cost index, and your entire init A and flight plan page done for you to push of a button. I like putting the stuff in myself though. If you change the, you can see move as soon as. Click the arrows in the flight plan page. Oh, if you change the nav display to yeah, if you change the plan, yeah. I appreciate the tips though. As much as I operated the Airbus kind of a lot. Starting engine 1.
Check.
As much as I did kind of operate the Airbus a lot in P3D, it's been a while now since I've flown it a lot. I flew it a bit this week, kind of getting used to it again, but I hadn't flown it very much recently, so. Kind of nice to have someone who's you know, sort of helping out just with like the tips and things like that. Yeah, a lot of companies like you to initialize everything via the ACARS because it reduces the chance of you know, user error in the inputs. The one argument I make against it, especially as a simmer here, is just by doing it myself, it gives me a chance to really kind of feel out the route and understand the route. Like if you just load it, it kind of doesn't make sense. That's not that it doesn't make sense, but I feel like I more understand the route if I put it in myself. All right, now that the fuel truck has driven through us, here we go. Got out of here more or less on time though, so hopefully the FS2 or the self-loading cargo is pretty happy here. One thing I don't like, of course, is the fact these engine instruments, the oil pressure starts at almost 300 psi, and it'll go up to 400 as we go through the takeoff anyways, but after start checklist.
Anti-ice.
Off.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Pitch trim.
Set and checked.
Rudder trim.
0.
After start checklist complete.
Left side clear. Clear left side.
Clear right side.
All right, and we are underway. Season 7 of A Pilot's Life. All right, as we head out to the spot here. I don't know what spot this was. 41, I think I said. So in the real world, you just simply park here, and you'd wait for the ground control. You'd put up the ground control frequency, and you just park here, and you wait for him to call you. So don't call them. They call you. The guy's just, there's the tower right there, and he literally looks up and down the whole airport. Literally looks up and down the whole airport and just calls out spot numbers. If he sees a plane parked on a spot number, he'll call it out. Spot 9, spot 15, spot 24. And when he calls your spot number, you just say your call sign. American 20, what are we? I don't even know what our call sign is. American 1371 with information alpha. And then he'll give you taxi instructions. It's so much more efficient. I love it as a system because it's so much more efficient than the normal way of everyone's trying to get a word in on ground. And this could be such a big, busy airport. It just doesn't work if everyone's trying to cut in all the time. DFW traffic, American 1371 is at spot 24 taxiing kilo for departure 17 right. So it's a very efficient system. If you've ever been at a busy airport and trying to get a word in edgewise on the radio, you know, or even just listening to other people trying to get their words in on the radio, their calls in on the radio, it's a system that works fine if it's not a busy airport, but you get a big, busy airport, and you people stepping on each other, nobody can hear what anybody else is saying, because everyone's trying to get their first word in and get a conversation and get the attention of the ground controller, and it just goes on and on like that. So this whole spot number, don't call me, I'll call you system, super efficient in terms of just not wasting, and you notice that when you're at DFW, the ground frequency in DFW is often relatively quiet, because it's organized. The ground controller is in charge of everything. He's in charge of who's talking and when. It's a simple system, but it works very well. The last thing I promised. Takeoff CFG set for taxi. Click on the fuel prediction. Click on the fuel prediction on the MCDU to find the takeoff CFG and then roll the trim wheel to match. Let's do that. Alright, CFG 24.5. No, hold on a second. Yeah, CFG 24.5. And then how do you see... trying to get a good view of this here. Is it hidden over there? I cannot see it well at all. I cannot get myself craned around here. There we go. CFG 25. Aha, so 24.5 would be right about there. Whoops. Whoop. Wrong button. Okay, cool. There you go. Slowly learning more and more. See, I never knew where the CFG was specified, so I always just left it at neutral. And it works, but it's... If we could be more realistic, I'd like to be more realistic. It's a good thing I'm flying with you, because you obviously know this airplane quite well. Alright. Look away for 1 second to look at something on the other screen, and we're off the taxiway again. Kilo Echo Golf. The keg route, as they say. So you keep the Kilo, which is slightly bare to the right, and then Echo Golf, which is the middle lane of the holding bay. Flight control check.
Ready. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Rudder.
Full right. Full left. Neutral.
That's why I don't normally do that with the finger on the go. Before takeoff checklist.
Flight controls.
Checked.
Checked. Flight instruments.
Checked.
Checked. Briefing.
Confirmed.
Flap setting.
Config 1 plus F.
Config 1 plus F. V1, VR, V2, flex temp.
V1 131, VR 132, V2 136. Flex temp 30 degrees. This is always one I have trouble with. Flexing 30 degrees. Flexing 30 degrees. Flexing 30 degrees.
V1 131, VR 132, V2 136, flex temp 30 degrees, ATC.
Set.
ECAM memo.
Takeoff, no blue.
Down to the line.
DFW traffic. American 1371 taking position runway 17 right for departure. Bleco 8 departure. Below the line. Below the line.
Approach path clear of traffic. Takeoff runway.
17 right confirmed.
Cabin crew.
Advised.
TCAS.
TARA.
Engine mode selector.
Normal.
PAX.
On.
Before takeoff checklist complete.
This is a horrible lineup. Try to do this at the same time. It's just not working for me here. Alright. I think we're all ready. Takeoff.
Check. Thrust set.
Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
A little late for that.
100 knots.
Checked.
V1. Rotate. Positive climb.
Gear up.
Climb.
Gear up.
Flap 0.
Speed checked.
Autopilot 1 on. There we go.
Flap 0.
We're airborne out of DFW. Busy metropolitan area here. And there's an old, I'm not sure if it's a naval base or an Air Force base down there. Now it's a parking lot mostly for cars, but you can still see it there. They're slowly demolishing that. Alright, so it's across J Girl out above 5,000 and a max speed 240 knots. We got the 240 knots pegged. And looks like we're going to have no problem making J Girl 5,000. Alright. You're going to have to send me the link for your takeoff calculator. After takeoff checklist. After takeoff checklist. After takeoff climb checklist.
Landing gear.
Up.
Flaps.
Retracted.
PAX.
On.
Down to the line.
Alright. Yeah, you're going to send me a link for your takeoff calculator there. Also, you only have a toga or flex time of 5 minutes, so usually you'll hit the ND chrono button just before you Light up the engines for takeoff, giving counter how long spin total flex. Neat, yeah. You've been watching a lot more videos about the A320 than I have, that's for sure. I know enough to get this airplane in the air, get it safe to a destination, but that's the sort of thing that I do enjoy. I do revel in that. But as a simmer too, I fly so many different types of airplanes. I'm happy to sort of get the most basic information about each one done. I try to kind of study and learn the manuals a little bit, but the Airbus manuals are huge. As we discovered that from trying to download them last time, several thousand pages long. There's Dallas Love over there. There's DFW all the way back there. There's the river there by downtown. We're going almost pretty much right over downtown. Oh, I said that it's any higher. Okay. That's alright. Hold on for a minute. What did I say for the final? 370? Yeah, 370. Perfect. So now we got 370 set. We're back into managed climb, and away we go. And FS2Crew automatically takes the seat belts and lights off for us, and that's fine, but I find the thing is I can't even put the seat belts on even if I want to from this point on. If I try to, he just automatically switches it back, so eventually he kind of gets it, but he keeps on checking it. Every couple of seconds checks it, switches it back off. So that's something I'd like to see improved about the FS2Crew, is allow us to change to select the seatbelt sign, don't just automatically change it. But here we go. We're on our way for leg number 1 of season 7, and what a huge metroplex! And to think that like all these buildings are down there individually. Like as you start looking out there, you can see all the buildings. They are individual buildings. It blows the mind. I was talking to my brother about this, and it just blows the mind how much detail, how many buildings are rendered in the simulator, not just on your computer, but how many have been, processed and stored on the Microsoft server by the AI processing. It blows the mind when you start to think about how many buildings are tracked and have been placed in the simulator and are able to be streamed to your computer. Just absolutely phenomenal number. And you end up with very realistic looking. Very realistic looking scenery. Just kind of try to just be a little jump today. Try to catch DFW in the background there. Maybe move myself for a couple seconds just to get a nice kind of waypoint. Start paying attention, just enjoying the sightseeing. That's one thing that I really don't do as a simmer very much. As you guys have probably seen on my channel, is I spend a lot less time outside probably than the average simmer looking at the model, because this is the view you get as a pilot. This is what I expect to see. This is how you manage the airplane, is from inside like this. So I'm very used to this view. No, I appreciate that. I'm going to try to take all your tips to heart. I probably won't take the flight init to heart, because I enjoy programming the flights myself. I enjoy that aspect of it, but I'll try to remember to set the toga timer, and yeah, I'm gonna have to find a good takeoff calculator for this airplane. I just sort of make up random numbers right now, and frankly, DFW, the runway's 13,000 feet long. I can put pretty much any power setting on there I want, and we're gonna get off the ground without too much problem. But I would like to, I'd like to have a realistic takeoff calculator. One of the nice things about flying the most popular airplane in the world is that lots of people have done, yeah, please do, have done things like takeoff calculators and whatnot, and performance calculators for this airplane, because it is one of the most popular in the world, and certainly in the simming world as well. In Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's definitely one of the most popular airplanes. But that being said, the PMDG737 is coming. I think it was yesterday. I think I read the news yesterday. Maybe it was the day before. But they are rounding out the final stages of their beta testing phase. So they are still in beta testing, but they're pretty comfortable with what the airplane's doing now. They're beginning to think that the beta testing phase is... Ha. That's funny. full standard. There it is. Ha! Thank you. And I should actually do this. Below the line.
Aero ref.
Standard set.
Standard set. After takeoff, climb checklist complete.
Yeah. So they said that, yeah, they are entering the final phase of their beta testing. They're pretty much happy with the way the airplane is flying now. They think that the beta testing is about to be completed, and I believe what they said was that this week they are going to have a meeting and discuss a release date. So they haven't been. The nice thing about a lot of sim developers and PMDG is among them is that a lot of times sim developers do not target a release date. They work on the product until they feel it's ready to be released, and once they feel it's ready to be released, or at least very much approaching that phase, then they will, then they'll put a release date out there. But they don't set a release date 6 months in advance and say we have to have it done by this date, and if there's crunch, so be it. You guys can all just work 75-hour work weeks for the last couple of weeks, you know, to get it out there on time. No, they take their time. They make sure the product is good. When they feel it's pretty much approaching that end game and they're ready for it. Okay, I think we're back online. I think. Okay, there we are. I think we're back online. Can I sound as exasperated as possible? I thought we had kind of done away with these issues. Last weekend we didn't have a single issue with the internet dropping off for any length of time. But apparently now it's back. So welcome back everyone who is watching, and I'm sure that's now very few of you. But yeah, now we have got to restart our stream because, yeah, thank you very much, Rogers, once again for killing the internet halfway through my stream. And I don't know what's going on with this. It's been... We're back, yeah. Oh my god. Just... I cannot emphasize enough how exasperating this is. I mean, obviously you guys can see this. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm trying to stream, trying to do something on the internet, and then the internet just vanishes for like that was at least 5 minutes, if not more, where it just was no longer connected and trying to reconnect and was not having any. And Travis wonders if I'm just going to stay off and just pitch my rage. Everything else is going well today, so I'm not gonna rage quit over just this one. But just annoying because now, like, I've lost the continuity of my stream. I've lost my train of thought. I didn't even realize. The first hint to me that I was offline was when my sim said, "Oh, you are no longer connected. We're not streaming live data to you anymore." That was the first hint to me that it was offline. I didn't notice, like, on the streaming software here in the corner, there's a little green light when it's on and a red light when there's no data going out. I didn't even notice at what point that went from green to red because I was sitting here chatting, paying attention to the airplane, wasn't paying any attention to that. So when the sim declared that it was no longer offline, that was the first indication I had that. That was the first indication I had that I was not online anymore. So I was probably talking to myself for a good, like, 3 minutes there before I even realized it. I don't know what's going on. I'd love to get a new modem, but they're only just pushing these new lower quality modems on you. Tried flying with you, couldn't get the controller brakes to work. Finally realized I forgot to attach a cable after restarting the sim. Some days this this hobby is not worth it. The career is not worth it either, but the hobby is just not worth it. So much effort, so many hoops you've got to jump through. Everything's done the right way. Like I said, like when I started the stream, I realized just as I was getting the streaming software set up that I had forgotten to plug in my headset. So I went and plugged in my headset, and what did it do? It froze the sim. And I had to restart the sim. So I was actually ready to go probably about 3 minutes early, and by the time I then killed the sim and reset the sim and the track IR and everything, and reconnected and reloaded and everything, instead of being 3 minutes early, I was 3 minutes late to start the stream. So what a royal pain in the rear end. But I got to find out what's going on with this internet connection, because this is really driving me nuts. This has been a constant problem. And I need to figure out why it's doing it, and we need to come up with a resolution, because I cannot have this. I can't just have the internet just keep dropping offline for 10 minutes every morning unless I reboot the modem. And I will say this, I also rebooted the modem before I started the stream, so it's not like it was, oh, it's been up too long or anything. I rebooted the modem before I started the stream, and still it died on me, you know, whatever, basically about an hour in here. I don't know if it's the amount of data just flying through that modem or what it is, but it very frustrating to say the least. So as I was saying, the one thing that I was saying is that yeah, PMDG, and I don't know how far it got before I got cut off, but PMDG did announce that this next week they are going to finalize a release date for the 737. And generally when PMDG is doing that, it's not something that's 6 months away. It's, I would say, at the outside it'll probably be 6 weeks out, and it'll probably be less than that. It'll probably be in the 3 to 4 week range, I would expect, if even that. So probably within the next 1 or 2 legs of a pilot's life, we'll probably have the 737. We'll probably be learning that. Squibbly at least won't be pointing out my flaws and errors as I operate that airplane, because he's not as familiar with it. Shut up and take my money. Yeah. Wait, they already took my money. Shut up and give me my airplane that I paid for 2 years ago. Because I already paid for that airplane. I already got the $100 credit when I bought the NGXU. So yeah, that's the other nice thing too, is that like it's a free airplane. I get this airplane, the first iteration of it anyways for free, and then whatever expansion packs or however else they choose to do it, I'm going to have to decide what I want to spend my money on. But at least the very first iteration of it, I'm definitely getting that one. Loading it in the sim for free, which is great. So anyways, I think that's a great piece of news that's coming up.
Also, one more reminder to please return to congregating to the front galley when the flight deck doors.
Let's have a look here. Tulsa, 320. How are we doing time-wise? So 15:51. So we're looking at just over an hour to get to Des Moines. It's not a very long flight. I contemplated doing the whole round trip in one go today, and I decided against it. It just makes for a little bit of a long stream. An hour and a half each way is 3 hours of flying time plus an extra hour. Like, it's 4 hours. Like, when I want to do the long streams, we're going to be doing those JFK to Los Angeles. Like, that's going to be a long stream. Yeah, it's been 2 years, but you knew it wasn't coming fast. You knew that the sim was not even close to ready when it first came out, and even now, it's just reaching that point where it's ready now for advanced airplanes. Now, can anyone tell me, Squibbly, can you tell me, is this scenery look right to you, or is this just like the generic stuff? Because it said I was back online. It's got an odd look to it where it does almost look. It's got that generic look, doesn't it? It doesn't look like satellite imagery anymore. It said it had flipped itself back online, but I'm going to have a quick check here. No, not that one. Wrong options. We're going to have a quick check here, just make sure that the data is back online, because yeah. Now it's going to take a couple seconds to load that back up again. Yeah, I'm back. What a pain. I've got to figure out if it's the modem itself or if it's the cable company that is screwing up or who's doing it, but there we go. That looks much better. Yeah, that was just, we were just looking at generic stuff there. That's much more realistic. There we go. What? Memphis Center? Oh, you know what? Because I didn't reconnect to the network yet, because, yeah. and funny enough, look behind us, there's also a DFW ATIS up there now. That's funny. Yeah, sorry, I did not remember to reconnect to the network because, of course, my sim failed. Memphis Center, huh? I don't think we're actually going through Memphis Center, are we? Hold on, just downloading it here. Just cutting through the corner of it. I'm just seeing that now. And just cutting through the very, very corner of it. He's not even going to bother with us because literally we're cutting through like 5 miles at the end of his space. So, yeah, not going to happen. Why does it always happen to us? ATC behind, I know. It's because we're always on the leading edge. What was it the other day I heard? Why did the hipster burn his tongue? because he tried to drink his coffee before it was cool. And that's us. We're always online before it's cool. Always getting to the airports before the ATC's online. All right, I promise I'll keep the jokes to a minimum with this channel. Yeah, it's always the way right behind us. Maybe if we're on here long enough, I forget. And I looked, and I forget now. Is it? I think it's in Minneapolis Center, is Des Moines. Yeah, just on the outskirts of Minneapolis. So we're just flying through Kansas City Center. We're going to get to Minneapolis Center, and Des Moines is actually in Minneapolis Center. So maybe we'll get some airspace. I mean, maybe we'll get some ATC as we enter that airspace. Maybe if we're on here long enough. It doesn't look terribly busy. It's a Saturday, so you never know. People come and go at weird times on Saturdays. So, you know, weekdays are pretty predictable. You know when people are going to show up on VATSIM. But Saturdays, yeah, you never know. All right, somewhere down here is Tulsa. That might be Tulsa there. How far ahead is Tulsa? Tulsa's still 80 miles ahead, so it's a little further ahead. But, yeah. I thought that was interesting. The other interesting thing I read this week, and I thought it was really interesting. So for those of you that have been following it, Just Flight is launching another airplane. Another developer is launching an airplane on Just Flight, and it's the BAE 146, which is for those of you that have not seen it before, it's an older jet aircraft. It's a 4-jet high-wing aircraft. It's like a regional jet, but with 4 engines, so it was very much made for like short runways, takeoff and landing, and that sort of thing. So yeah, Just Flight has been working on this for a while. It's been on its way out. People have been kind of excited and eager about it. So yeah, like it's a quad jet here with but with a regional cabin, so it's meant to get into small airports, like London City was one of them. It's even got these speed brakes here where you pop the tail of the end of the tail pops open to create some extra speed brakes to help you slow down and fly steeper approaches. What was really interesting about this, though, over the last week, a day or two ago, is that they hadn't quite released it. They had announced a release date and a price, and then this past week they dropped the price. In response to community feedback, the community felt the price was too high, and they dropped the price by about 20%. I think it went from $50 US to $40 US. I think it was. Maybe it was 50. Maybe it was 50 pounds to 40 pounds. I can't remember. But yeah, they actually, before it even launched, so they hadn't sold a single copy yet, and they decided to drop the price in response to community feedback, which is a really kind of an interesting development, and it speaks to the power of the community. First of all, it's not a large community. You don't want to alienate a large subset of your customers for sure in this business, because it's not a large market for simmers. There are quite a few. I mean, they're definitely kind of tens of thousands, but it's not a huge market. If you alienate them in a large way, you're going to lose all your sales, and it's not a market that a lot of people get into. It's a pretty dedicated niche. You will get a few people coming into it from time to time, but it's not something that a lot of people are getting into on a regular basis. So you don't want to alienate your core customer base, or you will not make any money in this business, or you'll make very little anyways. So yeah, there was some outrage. I never even really read what the outrage was, but I read the news article. It said that they announced that in response to community feedback, they dropped the price by $10, by 20%, which is great for everyone in the community, and I think it'll bode very well for them as a developer. At the end of the day, to look like they are supporting the community felt it was just a little bit too high, and wasn't going to bite, wasn't going to buy it, and yeah, it really it really kind of speaks to the power of this community. It's not a big community, so the developers need to have the support. On the flip side of that, though, like, it also, as a developer, like, you look at this product, like, they priced it, I think, what they thought was going to be a fair price for the amount of effort that they put into it, and then to suddenly drop that by 20% and hope that they're still going to make back enough money to cover the cost of development and continue to pay developers salaries and everything else like that, kind of sets an interesting precedent. Good for the customer, but in the end, is it really good for the customer if you end up setting the price point for everything so low that no one can get into the business? you know, as a customer, it just makes me look at it that much harder and say, hey, is that an airplane I'd like to fly? Maybe, you know, is it something that I'm interested in? Maybe I will get into it one day. But at the same time, like if we cut the prices too low to the point where the developers cannot sustain themselves on the revenue they're making, then it hurts the customer as a whole, because then you won't get the products at all. So, you know, I'd rather have a little bit more and know that the developers being well supported. And it's the same thing that we're reaching this reckoning point in society where we are willing to pay for service, pay a living wage for service. I mean, the restaurant industry in North America is a perfect example of this as well. You know, pre-COVID, it was hard to make a living. You lived off tips, and the system was designed that you had to live off tips. The minimum wage for a server is lower than the minimum wage for almost everybody else in society, because the assumption is that, hey, you're going to make tons of money off tips. Don't worry about it. You know, you're not going to make that much hourly from the restaurant, but you're going to make all your money on tips. But that's not always true. Tips are not something you can depend upon. You know, if you have a slow day, maybe only a couple people come in, maybe you work at a restaurant that's having an off day, or there's construction around, the restaurant's doing very poor business, you're not going to make much money in tips. Well, guess what? You're not going to get any money from anywhere else either. You're not going to get extra money from the employer because you didn't make money in tips. So, you know, this whole tipping restaurant staff, the whole point of tipping to me was always, you know, a little something extra for providing good service. And the fact that in North America it's become a default that you have to tip 15, 18% right off the bat, and then if the service is good, you tip above that, was a little bit unfair to customers, was a little bit unfair to the wait staff, I think, because again, you know, people end up having to work doubly hard just trying to pull in enough tips to cover the fact that their salary really doesn't cover their living expenses. So we're having that reckoning in society as a whole, where now, you know, post-pandemic, everyone kind of got out of the service industry while the restaurants were shut down for lengthy periods of time, and nobody wants to get back into it. They're like, I could make more money doing something else. Why am I really doing this lousy job where I have to work super hard? And it's not that I don't want people to work super hard, but you have to work way harder than you should just to make ends meet. It's not like you're getting ahead in life. It's not like you're making millions of dollars to invest in the stock market or something. You're just getting enough to scrape by to maybe pay the rent, to put some food on your table at the end of the day. Nobody should have to live like that, and nobody should have to work, you know, 18-hour days to live like that, to just scrape on by. So I for one am more than willing to pay a little bit more when I go to a restaurant, to know that the server's being paid a living wage, that they're not relying on tips at the end of the day. And I'll still tip for good service, but they shouldn't be relying on the tips as this is 30% of your income. It has to be the tips. The tip should be above and beyond for service above and beyond. I've always thought that. That being said, I almost always tip. There has been a rare occasion where I have not tipped a wait staff, and usually that was for service that was so abysmal that I made the statement specifically, or I would even tip literally pennies when we had pennies. I would literally put 2 cents on the table and say, this is what your service was worth today. And it was very rare. I generally, like, I look at these people, and they're working really hard, doing their best. I can only think of very rare occasions where I've done that, but where I felt that the service was just so absolutely, like, the person either did not care or got it so completely wrong and didn't care that they got it wrong, that I just didn't feel that they'd earned anything. Very rare. I can only think of a handful of times maybe I've ever done that. I will usually tip a standard amount of 15% is usually the target. If you've done well, I'll definitely tip more. 15% is usually where I start at. And again, better service, going above and beyond the absolute minimum, will net you a little bit more. But that's what tipping was supposed to be. It's always supposed to have been like, here's a little bit of extra for good service. But for years, the restaurant industry has kind of pushed that idea that no, tipping is just part of your income, and we're only going to pay you a small part of your income as well because of that tipping. And I'm glad to see that we're starting to pay people more living wages, and it's true in a lot of industries where we're starting to pay people a little bit more. It's not necessarily a lot more, but we can also, you know, hike salaries overnight. But at the same time, if we try to create that upward pressure, hopefully we can entice people to come to more industries. Industries that are having a hard time hiring people. I just read today that the unemployment rate in Canada reached a record low. I think it was 5.4%, a record low figure. Lots of people are working, and lots of people are not coming to the jobs they don't like anymore. There's lots of jobs out there. Of course, it's pushing inflation higher. Let's not even talk about that because we'll get into that for way too long. But my original train of thought, oh yeah, it was. I don't know that we should necessarily always pressure developers to lower their prices below what they feel is the cost of their software and what is a return on investment for the time they spent on their software. It's hard to know what it's truly worth sometimes because obviously we don't see the books, we don't know how much money has been spent, we rarely know how many copies of a product are being sold, so how much revenue is being made to offset those expenses. But I would say in the Microsoft Flight Simulator age, we found a very nice kind of happy medium between things most of the add-ons are not quite as expensive as they were before, and the market's a little bit bigger, so the developers are still making enough money, I think, to cover their expenses. But we're all getting a little bit more bang for our buck in the flight simulation world anyway, so that's kind of nice to see. I don't feel any great need to pressure a lot of people. There are a few scenery developers that I think are overcharging a little bit, and I tend to pressure them, and I would like to pressure them to lower their prices a little bit, but I'm not talking substantial. You don't. Most of the time it's not like 50%, it's like, okay, maybe you're like 20 or 30% high for the quality of scenery you're churning out, but it is intriguing that the community managed to pressure a developer into lowering the price of their product. What was already a published price, and they lowered it. It was interesting. Will it bode well for the future? I don't know. Will people put on organized campaigns against that in the future? Again, I don't know. Alright, how are we doing here? 15:51. So we have a little under an hour to go here. So let's see if we can't start getting some information here, maybe. Let's go ahead and do this the fun way. KDSM. I wonder how often and look at that. That's something else, and I noticed this before I forgot about it, but once you actually program in a flight route, by default it offers you the METARs at your origin and destination. Kind of neat. I don't know how often that Des Moines Tower is actually staffed on VATSIM. I'm going to guess it's not a popular one. I hope the balance is okay on this. The last couple times I put out a video, I always feel like the balance is way too high. There's way too much noise. There we go, METAR 1504. There's way too much kind of background noise happening. I'm going to turn this plane down just a little bit more, because then I find I often have a hard time hearing myself over the sound of the background noise when I actually go and rewatch the video later and upload it. And I want to make sure that what I'm trying to say is at least projecting over everything else. All right, so Des Moines, 1354 Zulus. This is kind of outdated, but anyways. The winds were 310 at 5, 10 miles, 1 degree, -3, 2996. So 310 at 5. So let's have a look at the charts here. I love that everything is built into the sim now. Like, I'm not really, other than like SimBrief, I'm not really looking outside the sim very much anymore. And I really kind of like that. Alright, so let's, you can literally live inside the sim, which is what, I remember that's what PMDG's goal kind of was for a long time, was they wanted you to live inside the sim. All of their options and everything were buried in the FMC, so once you started the sim, you didn't have to switch to any external programs, everything was in the sim. And I like that. That was a nice philosophy. It kind of kept up with the immersion. Alright, so let's see here. So the winds are from 310. Okay, so we'll go straight in onto 3-1 here. I don't think we have any stars here, no. Actually, let me just, before I forget anything else, let's just do that. Alright, now we do have an ILS to runway 31. Yeah, planning the ILS 31. I think we're going to do that. I did do an RNAV approach in this airplane the other day using FPA, flight path angle, and it worked okay. It tracks the nav waypoints, but there's no VNAV tracking yet in this aircraft. That's going to come, I think, with time, but VNAV is a very complicated thing to kind of program in. Trying to program in exact angles and heights and everything to hit everything. It's a very complicated thing to kind of program in, so I'm not surprised that it doesn't exist yet. Winds calm now. Okay, so the winds were 310 at 6, now they're calm. I'm going to still go with 3-1. They were there before, they'll probably swing around and it may pick up from that direction again. So let's see here, ILS runway 31, so let's do that. Let's go ahead and set up the ILS to runway 31 here in Des Moines. So arrival ILS 31. And approach vias. There is a transition. Oh yeah, there's the Des Moines VOR right there. Here's a transition. I'll put it in there. We're probably going to shortcut it, honestly. We're going to probably just go direct cycling at some point. No star. Insert. So after DSM, it goes to cycling. Does the procedure turn. 4M, there it is. And then we should also have it then in the nav radios preloaded. Nope. I thought it preloaded that. It probably will preload it when we get a little closer in, I hope. Yeah, I'm going to turn direct cycling before we get to DSM as well, for sure. We're just going to we're going to come up from the south, we're going to sort of cut it in a little bit. But at least it gives us kind of something to play with, a little bit of top and drop planning, that sort of thing. I don't see it in here yet, but I'm just going to guess that it's just because we are too far out. And hopefully as it gets a little closer in here, maybe in about 15 minutes it'll show us something there. All right. Let's see here. I'll just try to see if there's anything else. Yeah, I noticed that the ILS didn't populate. And yeah, I was fairly sure about that it normally it populates what's the word I'm looking for? Not automatically, but yeah, as soon as you put in the approach. Let me try it one more time. Maybe it's not coded in the database correctly here. Arrival, ILS 31. DSM, insert it again. Yeah, doesn't like it. The other thing, let me just try it one more time here. Let me try something different. Let's just try the ILS 31 with no transition. No, doesn't like it. Okay, back to the DSM transition. I'm gonna break this thing if I play with it anymore, probably. If I do this one more time. Yeah, ILS 31. And, oh, sorry, approach vias, that's what I'm looking for. DSM, okay. Insert that. Yeah, it doesn't like it for whatever reason. Okay. Yeah, just random. Yeah, and that's the thing with this. And this is why I think there's a good chance that Aerosoft's going to make a decent amount of money if they bring out the 320. This is still a work in progress, and it's not progressing in a fast way. Certain things are happening. But yeah, it's not progressing in a particularly fast way. Yeah, no slash, no course. Yeah, that's true, we don't need the course. I'm going to put it in there anyways because that's just the pilot in me, but I know we don't need the course necessarily because Microsoft Flight Simulator loves to auto-tune courses and auto-set courses. Thinking about it.
Traffic.
What? Is there really an airplane out there? Hold on. There is a Challenger 5.6 miles away. Okay. Opposite direction. Oh, here he comes. Huh. Wow. That was close. Honestly, that was pretty close. It's only showing him 700 feet above. Crazy. What are the odds in this giant VATSIM sky with only like 200 or 300 people flying in all of North America that you're going to see someone fly right over your head like that? Wow. That was, yeah, that was impressive. All right, I'm going to put it in here anyways, 311. Like I said, it should auto-tune itself, but the pilot in me says make sure it's in there anyways, and if it wants to change it when we get a little closer, it'll change itself. Okay, come on. 311. Nope, I'm not even allowed to do it. Okay, never mind. Not even allowed to do it. Ha. TCAS works. Well, the traffic alerting, anyways. It was red, but it was not giving me any kind of guidance. That's the thing. So that was the traffic. That was the traffic alert phase, which should have only been yellow. When he turned red, you should get some kind of a resolution advisory. So you should get descend. Traffic just means should be yellow, and you just pop out and look outside. It's cool that that's in there and that it even does that, because that really did get my attention, at least, even if it didn't give me any resolution advisory. It certainly got my attention to look and say, hey, what's going on here? So it did work in a weird way. It works as you expect it for flight sim, yeah. Again, yeah, TCAS is something else that's, as much as it seems like a simple system and we all kind of understand it on its most simple basis, it's actually an incredibly complicated piece of software. I think they're up to version 7, and it's a very complicated piece of software because, especially with the most recent versions, the transponders talk to each other, and they talk to each other and say, what are you going to do for a resolution? Oh, I'm going to do this. And they will actually coordinate with each other as well. So there's a lot of kind of things that go into it, based on your closure rate laterally, the altitude closure rate, your current vertical speed. You know, it'll come up with a resolution advisory. It may be just maintain current altitude. It may be descend. It may be climb. It may be even reverse from a climb to a descend. And the TCAS system will keep monitoring throughout the resolution advisory. So even if it tells you to start descending and you start going down, if there's another traffic that there's another aircraft that causes an alert, then it could tell you to go back into a climb from the descent. It could tell you to level off. Like it's an incredibly complicated piece of software. So to model it in the sim, with all of its possible iterations and permutations is very unlikely anyone's ever going to really go to that level. But it did work to a degree. It did get my eyes outside. It did get me looking. You know, the place where it appeared on the nav display was pretty accurate. And then I looked outside, and sure enough, there it was. So, yeah, like I said, it works as good as you would expect in the sim. It's not totally realistic, but again, it's another computer in and of itself. The TCAS system is its own computer, and it's a pretty complicated piece of software running in there. So always evaluating and looking at the possibilities of what is the least risk path whenever there's a conflict, and trying to send you on that least risk path. So there is a lot of complexity to it. To model it within the sim would be again, it's a question of compromises. It would steal a lot of processing power just to steal that. Really neat that it worked, though. Really neat that it actually did get my attention, and it got me looking at this guy. I am pretty impressed with that. All right, so we're getting there. We got about 250 miles to go. Yeah, I think now might be an appropriate time to do the briefing. And I think this guy likes it if I give him control. Let's have a look here. You have control.
I have control.
And like it, as much as I was not a fan of this at first, I do kind of like having these assists on here as an option. Kind of refresh your memory as to what you're doing. I don't like this as the sole source of FS2Crew information, and I really still like them having a manual. I think a manual is a really useful tool, but I do like having this on here as a quick reference. It's kind of handy. So when ready to set up the approach, announce you have control. I gave him control. Now obtain arrival weather, set up the MCTU, auto brake, low, medium, brief the approach, and then announce that I have control. So the only thing I really didn't do at this point is brief the approach and set up our auto brake. I'm going to go ahead and put medium on there because we're going to have to backtrack to the terminal anyways from wherever we roll past the terminal. So we've got that. And yeah, let's talk about our approach. Are you ready for an approach briefing?
Ready.
Alright, so today we're going to be doing the ILS to runway 31 in Des Moines, and actually what I didn't do, before I do that, I should do is, what am I looking for here? Performance. There it is. I know it's there somewhere. The sun's catching me at the wrong angle here. Okay, I already did retrieve it here. I'm just going to do this the easy way, just cheat a little bit and go to my VATSIM and just pull up the weather on VATSIM. So 4 degrees, 2997, and this is where the printer would also come in handy. The other thing you could do as well, and what you probably do in reality in the sim, or in real life, is you probably pull up the METAR on this side, on this MCDU, and then copy the information onto the other MCDU. So you'd have your 2 MCDUs with different useful bits of information. Obviously, that's not possible the way this has been coded. They're both one unit. But again, it's a question of compromises, reducing the performance penalties by trying to make some reasonable compromises. And in most cases, having the screen copied to both MCDUs is fine. In most cases, you'd be looking at similar things anyways. All right, so we got the performance. We are going to do a full flap landing, and what we can also do is put in the 1158 for our barrel bins. There we go. Transition altitude, it should automatically know this, but we can put it in there if we want. Nope, we can't. Because I put 180,000, that's why. VAP of 134, VLS 132, or 122. Alright. Yeah, so we don't have any star transition today. We're just going to be doing the ILS to runway runway 31 in Des Moines, Iowa. 110.3 is set here. It should auto set the course of 311 once we get in a little closer. Glide slope at Forum, 2,400 feet. We'll check that as we go by. And the ILSDA of 1158, we just set that. Touchdown zone at 958. There we go. There's our landing elevation of 950, so that matches 958, perfect. The MSA around Des Moines, northeast of the VOR, which is where the approach is, conveniently enough, is 4,000 feet. Missed approach is straight ahead to 1,600 feet, then a climbing left turn 3,000 and heading 180, and intercept the Des Moines 254 radial outbound to the middle intersection and hold at 12 DME. Procedure turn not authorized. We're not going to worry about that because we're not going by the TNU VOR. Let's see here, Cat 2 and 3. We're not going to worry about Cat 2 and Cat 3 today. 3-degree glide slope, PAPI's on the left, ALSF2 lighting system. That's it for, yeah, the approach. It's supposed to be VFR anyways. Once we land in Des Moines, we're going to make a convenient right turn off of runway 31 and taxi Delta across runway 0523 back to the apron. I expect we're going to get off somewhere around Delta 4. 23 back to the terminal apron here. We'll have to find a gate here. Do we even have gate information here? Is there a parking chart? Oh, it's up here in the corner. Duh. It's right there. Yeah, hold on. Let's just have a quick look at the other screen because I did see there was a real-world flight to Des Moines. So, do they have a parking gate? Chances are, at a small airport like this, it's probably not being tracked. But let's check it out anyways, because I like to have that level of realism and have a gate assigned to me if possible in advance. Oh, they do. Charlie 5 Alpha was the gate. So there it is, Charlie 5 Alpha. So that's what we're going to aim for our parking gate. Let's see here. Terrain, again, 4,000 feet all around Des Moines. Weather is looking like a pretty nice day. VMC, operational. Let's see here. Let's bring up those NOTAMS again. See if there's anything in Des Moines. We've got nothing wrong with the airplane, but Des Moines, we've got T1 markings to southeast side, not standard. Delta edge markings. A lot of worn out, non-standard markings, that's it. Pop between Delta and Golf closed. Romeo between Delta and Romeo 1 closed, so there's a few things here closed. So let's have a quick look here and just sort of compare. Let's just close this up here, and then we can just move that over a little bit. All right, so Delta between, so Papa between Delta and Golf. Papa between Delta and Golf. Okay, so this area in here, Romeo between Delta and Golf. Pad closed, Papa 7, Papa 3, Papa... all these are closed. Is that runway closed? Yeah. No. Yeah, runway 0523 closed. Well, I guess we should have looked at that before we started doing a brief on, to land on the open runway, or on the closed runway. We didn't in this case, but we might have thought of that. So, all right, so yeah, big thing is that this runway, along with like its whole parallel taxiway system, appears to be closed, so we're not going to worry too much about that, because we're going to be landing on 31 and taxiing Delta back to the apron. Let's see here, fuel situation, that's the only other thing I need. Let's just go back to the head of the flight plan here. We need about 1,900 kilograms to go to our alternate. Right now we're showing expected fuel on board 0.8. What? Showing 980. We need 1,900, so we may not have enough fuel to actually go to our alternate. How do we load so little fuel on board? Or is this aircraft set up in pounds, perchance? Let's see here. MCDU menu. I'm trying to remember now. Where are the options in this? Oh no, they're all on the iPad, aren't they? I'm thinking of the CRJ, that's why. All the options are over here. Aircraft configuration, weight unit kilograms. No, okay, it's in the right. Why do we have so little fuel for the end of our flight here? We may need to call our dispatcher and talk about, first of all, his fuel planning. And secondly, we may need to cancel our alternate or pick a closer alternate. All right. Interesting. Why are we? Or is this just a calculation error, you think? Which is also possible. It could also just be a calculation error. Fuel prediction page. Final. 0.8. Destination fuel on board. Extra. No, we got extra. So why does this say... There we go. Why did it say 0.8 before? Expected fuel on board 2.7. That's better. We should have 1.9 when we get there. That was weird. What was I doing wrong there? The thing I love about MSFS, you actually pass things like this. Hello, NASCAR. What did you put there? Did you get up and flying with us too? There's what Travis posted there. And there's the NASCAR stadium. And you see things like that, like honestly, like stadiums especially, and especially like NASCAR stadiums, because they're so huge. You see them quite easily from the air in real life. The other day we were passing, I was on my way down to Atlanta. I'm like, what is that down there? Like, absolutely huge stadium. And I looked it up when we got to Atlanta, and it was, yeah, we passed over a NASCAR stadium in Virginia, West Virginia, I think. Just absolutely huge, though. But yeah, you don't realize how big some of these things are until you go and you sort of see them in real life, and you compare them to like everything around them, and it's just like this oval stadium that's the size of like a small town. Oh yeah, it's just a NASCAR stadium with you know, literally hundreds of acres of parking lot all around it. Really kind of, some of these really big things really kind of stand out. Let's see here, is that Kansas City we're passing there? Yeah, we're going to pass over Kansas City next MCI, so this is just passing over Kansas City right up ahead here. You can tell that it's a bit more built up urban area. Like, it just, the way the whole sim kind of looks, it really is quite nice. You can look outside and you can recognize things. Yeah, I don't know. I was just looking for the fuel because it seemed like the fuel burn was too low, or the fuel burn was too high. We had too little fuel left at the end, but that's more realistic, 2.6. That's kind of what I want to see. It was showing 0.8 for some reason. I guess maybe it had just recalculated something and didn't like something, but yeah, that was just getting me a little worried we were going to run out of gas before we got there. Which is funny because, like, generally, SimBrief has been SimBrief's been very, very accurate for the most part with the 320 family. With the CRJ, I think it a little overestimates the burn, but I certainly have never run out of fuel when I use the SimBrief plant fuel. And I just love that everybody's getting like SimBrief integration, like on this iPad here. If I can get an angle that works. But there's so much good stuff in here. But like I said, like you've got the SimBrief integration, like you can load your flight plan right from SimBrief, and then all the information is there for your FMS and everything. It loads the OFP, so if you want to, you can read the OFP on here. Make it a little bigger so I can actually read it, but then everything's on here, NOTAMS and everything. Good luck reading through all that. What a pain in the butt trying to read that. You can control everything with the airplane from the EFB as well, so you can open the baggage doors, connect external power, even do a pushback. If you don't have pushback express, you can do the pushback through the EFB, which is great. Like there's lots of neat integrations with this. Performance top of descent, you can plan a top of descent point. Target altitude, let's say our target altitude is 3,000 feet. Actually, no, let's make it 4,000. Current altitude. Start your descent 104 miles before the target. Simple, but effective. Landing distance. This is also neat too. I saw this. You can put in the airport you're going to land at.
Checked.
Wind direction I won't worry about. Temperature was 4 degrees. Actually, get METAR. Let's see if that'll work. Unfortunately, that is in millibars. That's fine. 0% slope. Calculate. No, I need landing distance available. Let's see here in meters. It's 2744. So let's do 2744. Airspeed was going to be 134. I don't know what the weight's going to be. 930. 53, sorry, 53. Wait for landing. Let's see if we can get this here. W56.1. We're going to land with 59, we'll say 59. 59,000. Is that enough for it to calculate now? What am I missing here? Let's just say some calm winds. There we go. 311. That's enough for it to calculate. And it will calculate. If I can zoom in just a little bit more here so you guys can see it. Ugh, sometimes trying to use track IR is a pain. There we go. But what's really neat is it calculates the landing distances on your runway. So this is the length of your runway here, 2744 meters, and it shows you with low, medium, and maximum braking where your stopping distances are. So medium puts us about halfway down, just over halfway down this runway at 1667. I like it. I could do low, but we got to taxi back. The terminal's over here, so you might as well do medium and get off the runway a little sooner. So there's your landing calculation, so that's kind of neat. What else is buried in here? You can actually pull up the charts here. Give it a second. It takes a little while for it to work, but I have gotten it to work in the past. Come on, think about it. I'll think about it for a little while. Controller's currently in range, so you can see communication frequencies, active frequencies, Unicom. As I said, Hoppy ACARS is in here. I really don't use it too much. I've never been able to. It's not that I've never been able to. It's one of those systems where, like, if there's not enough people using it, it's not a terribly useful system. Enough people need to be on it, controllers and pilots, for the Hoppy system to be useful. And then failures. We may talk about this in the future. The trouble is I don't have any abnormal procedures for any of these things, so I know it all kind of comes up on the ICAST, but I'm a little bit leery about it when I don't have the abnormal procedures. And notice, of course, it does say full simulation of failures below isn't yet guaranteed. So we can fail these things, but there's no guarantee that the aircraft's going to react in a realistic manner yet. So definitely it's something they're working on is failures. about it. No, nothing. So in the future, I may play with failures and see if I can get some failures to happen. Okay, so there's Des Moines. We're about, it's at 104 miles for our performance calculator here. 104 miles, so we're about, that's the 120 mile mark. So probably about the time we get the 120 mile mark, I think it'll probably be a good time to start the descent here. Squibbly must already be in the descent on the way down, I guess. Where's my VATSIM here? I don't even see you, Travis. Where are you? There's me. There's Squibbly. You're almost on the approach there. You're quite far ahead. But we're about to start down. Travis, I have no idea where you are. And of course, you're not flying by name, are you? Prefer to be one of those mysterious numbered people. Oh, I don't see you on here. No, I don't know. I'm trying to find you, but I can't find you far, far back. But, like, I don't even see you on the map. Did you just take off from... No, that's not you. Are you connected right now, or did we lose your connection? Because I don't see anyone else between Detroit, or between Dallas and Des Moines. I lost mine. Just past Blecko. Wow. Yeah, I don't see you on the VATSIM though. You might be disconnected from the network. Trying to think what else I had to talk about while we get ready for our descent here. Okay, I'll see you in a second then. I have control.
You have control.
Are you ready for the approach briefing?
Ready.
Any questions?
No questions.
All right. I definitely feel much more comfortable with the FS2Crew in this airplane than I do with the CRJ. But again, I think that comes from length of time using it. Even though I've only been flying the FlyByWire 320 for a while, I flew the Aerosoft 320 quite extensively in P3D with FS2Crew. So FS2Crew, like anything else, is something you learn and you get comfortable with. And I am, because it's an airline SOP, you have to learn it, you have to know it quite well. It's great to have the cheat sheet here, but you really don't want to be using the cheat sheet all the time. You really want to have it commit to memory if you're gonna make use of it. That's where it becomes really useful and interactive. If you're reading it, it's great in the beginning, and absolutely for the learning process, it's great to be able to read that. But you want to reach a point where you're not reading it, where you are where you're just interacting in an almost natural way by stating SOP calls, and then that's what gets you to your destination. All right, so we just passed the 120 mile mark, so let's go ahead and start down now. 4,000. We're just going to start. We're planned at, so we're going to start a nice 3-degree descent. We're not going to do a complete idle descent. We're going to do whatever 3 degrees gets us here, which hopefully I don't think it's going to be completely idle. Pull it out. Oh, I did have to pull it out. Okay, there we go. FPA -3. There we go. Now there's the target. That's okay. Now it's getting down there. Beauty. Let's have a look for you. There you are. I see you now. Envoy 3770. And you don't have a flight plan either. Don't forget to refile. Oh, fun times. Fun times.
As we have noticed, we have begun our initial descent.
We all fall for the same things in this sim,
Now
so
would be a good time to wrap up any business.
I'm laughing only because I do the exact same thing.
If you are up, once you return to your seat, we ask that you remain seated until the aircraft arrives safely at the gate. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin forward.
We're not starting exactly with the most glamorous airports in America on this Pilot's Life tour, but again, it's you know, workhorse. Like, oftentimes we have to go to places we may not be fans of. They may not be the nicest airports in the world. They may not be the most famous airports in the world, but they're still important parts of the travel network. And when you start going on these flights too, like as a pilot, like I've got to say, like for me personally, 3 days is my limit. After 3 days, I feel like I need to come home and see people and do things at home. And lately, the company's been putting me on a lot of 4 days, and 4 days gets really quite long. It's a long time to spend away from home. I really have to rant about that a little bit. I really despise 4 days. It's a little bit too long away from home. You come back, it's been half a week. You know, things have gone on in your house you don't even know about anymore. It's not an easy lifestyle, for sure. I would rather work a little bit shorter. I'd still like to go to work, and I'd like to work a certain number of days, but I don't want to be away from home for all that many days. That's what really kind of kills me at the end of the day, is being away from home for extended periods of time. The flying is great, but it wears on you. That being said, the other end of the spectrum is working really short shifts, and the only trouble with working really short shifts is it feels often inefficient if you're driving a decent way to the airport and you have to drive for a good, you have to drive for like a good 3 hours to get to and from the airport every day. You don't want to come in every single day. Now, I'm not that far by any means. I'm very reasonable, 30 to 40 minutes away from the airport. I don't mind coming in every day, but it is certainly nice when you do live that lifestyle where you're away for a couple days and you save a little bit of gas on commuting because you're not driving the distance every single day. This week I'm going to be working nights. I'm going to be driving in every single day. What a pain that's going to be, but I think still at the end of the day, to me, better than the 4-day pairings. 4 days is just too long to be kind of stuck away from home. And you better like the guy you're spending 4 days with, because generally the front end is paired up for the whole 4 days unless somebody calls in sick or somebody's something else has gone sideways. You're going to be with the same guy for 4 days. You better hope that you get along anyways. Or it can turn into a very long 4 days very quickly. See, I noticed the turn there at Des Moines as it's drawn on the diagram there. It does not look particularly realistic. It's a really big radius turn, but that's why we're going to actually start by diverting a little closer to Des Moines. Now that we're just about to pass our last waypoint, we're gonna shortcut Des Moines and just go directly to what was it? Cyclin. That's what it was. So that tells me we're not getting any ATC this morning. Ah well, we had a good run with the last 1 or 2 episodes. So maybe when we do our return to DFW, it'll be a morning like this. We can. We'll hopefully get some service down in Texas. Let's see if we can spot that airport out there yet. It's still 80 miles away, so it might still be a little bit far to be spotting it. But nevertheless, it's kind of fun to get back into this. I was kind of jonesing a little bit to start these pilot life careers. I was going to give myself a little break from streaming because last weekend I streamed like 8 hours over 3 days, but I did want to get back into this. I just enjoy this. I really enjoy just kind of sitting back, having a cup of coffee, enjoying flying airplanes, talking about the simming world and anything that's interesting and exciting. And I think that really the PMDG and the Just Flight 146 were really the 2 big things that had come up in the last little while on in the flight simming world. There's always new airports coming out. Nothing hugely spectacular that I saw, but there was another. What did I see this morning as well now? And it's funny because like I almost have a bias against Freeware products now. If I could just find it here. There is a Freeware, what is it, 300 or 330? Just trying to find it here. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, the Headwind A330 Neo. I'm always a little leery of Freeware airplanes, and I don't know why, because some of them are quite nice. Not all of them. but some of them are quite nice. And again, I'm leery of freeware airliners because an airliner requires a lot of investment. You really have to have a lot of people kind of working on a project to really make an airliner kind of work in the end. The fly-by-wire, because it's free, I mean, and it's sort of, it was almost included. It was a mod initially, and then it became sort of a separate airplane. I didn't feel like I certainly was wasting anything installing it and trying it out. And because they had sort of a nice baseline to start from with the Sims 320, they didn't have to reinvent the wheel. They didn't have to build new models. They just had to start programming in the interior workings of the aircraft a little better. But yeah, so there's a 330 that's out for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I guess they kind of jumped along on the 320, and they create a 330 external model. But initially, the flight deck was the 320 flight deck, which is not bad because there's a lot of commonality. There's more commonality than not between the 330 and the 320 flight deck, but there are a few distinct differences, like the emergency gear deployment system and the fuel system's a little different. There's a few things that are a little bit different in the 320 versus the 330. Enough that you will know that you're not in the right flight deck, but you can sort of get by. But again, it makes a great starting off point, and then you can sort of work from there, change the models, adjust them a little bit to make them a little bit more realistic. So should we do that is, I guess, the question, really. And I haven't decided if it's something I'm interested. I'm interested in it. Is it a Neo or just an A330-300? It is a 330 Neo, I believe. Yeah, A330-900 Neo. It's called Headwind, if you Google it. But yeah, that being said, like, is it worth maybe downloading and just looking at? Probably. It certainly doesn't really cost you too much. It doesn't cost you anything to look at it. Just a little bit of your time. Just trying to find this website here, just to have a look at it. It's something I've been thinking about because I really do want to see a good long hauler. Just trying to find it here. Alright, yeah, so I found it on flightsim.to anyways, which is always a great site for making your websites or your sim stutter, but yeah, this is not a study level aircraft. They say it right off the bat. It's right there in the initial description.
Kevin, prepare for ride.
Not a study level aircraft, however, it allows you to make complete flights, native textures, wing flex, custom flight model, self-customized cockpit based on the fly-by-wire A32NX. Yeah, so it follows a similar pattern to the fly-by-wire 320. So maybe it's worth loading and having at least a look at, because I certainly wouldn't mind having a long hauler in there. Just to start doing some flights to Europe and everything. But the biggest problem, and this is probably the biggest problem I have with the sim, and I'm wondering if PMDG is going to fix this. Certainly, I wonder if Airbus is going to fix this with the 330. Is that there's no pause at top of drop, functions in this sim, and that is a little bit frustrating because when you do long hauling in a simulator, you need that as something you do. You need to have the ability. All right, 2996. And you go, 2996. You need to have the ability for top to drop. It's just a given. There will be times, if you're doing long hauling and you're doing 8-hour flights, there will be times where you're going to step away for a length of time. You need the ability to pause the airplane at the top of descent point in case you're just not there when it happens. So not everyone's going to sit there for 6 or 8 hours like across the pond day and descend and wait for their descent point and fly their 330 down there. So I used to love kind of setting up the overnight flights, and then I would go to bed and get up in the morning, and it would be paused at top of descent, and I just finish the flight into London or Frankfurt or whatever, and I enjoyed that, and I would like to continue doing that in Microsoft Flight Simulator, but we've got to work on that. That's got to become an option for anything that's a long hauler. All right, it's probably close enough. We should probably go direct to cycling at this point. And what I'm going to do is I'm also just going to put us into an open descent at this point. Thrust idle, open descent. Let's get down there. Make sure we're not too high for this approach here. What do we got? We got about 45, 50 miles until we intercept the final approach course. So I think this should work out just fine. But we'll just expedite a little bit with the open descent. I am waiting for the Aerosoft 330 for sure. And that's the thing, is I know when a company charges you for their product, and generally they're putting a decent amount of effort into it. Now, there are exceptions in the flight sim community that we all kind of chuckle about, airplanes that perhaps, you know, should not be even charged a penny for, let alone you know, $60 or $70 from what some of these developers charge. But there's certain developers that we know we can trust. We know they're going to produce a good quality product. So and Aerosoft is one of them. They're going to put a good airplane out there that may have bugs, but they also will support their product. If it has bugs in it, they will come out, they will fix it. They're not just going to put it out there, oh, here's a buggy piece of software, thanks for your $70, bye. They're going to put it out there, they're going to charge a reasonable price for it, but you know that they're going to put the effort into it. They have a whole team of developers working on this airplane. When it gets done, it's going to be a very reasonable airplane. It's not going to be, again, not super huge systems depth. Probably, again, failures may not be simulated. Aerosoft doesn't necessarily do airplanes that simulate failures, but in terms of flying from point A to point B, like we're doing with our pilot's life career here, definitely workable. But I definitely will think about using those failures. I may reserve it until I've practiced them a little bit. I would like to play with those failures in the 320, but like I said, I would like to practice it first. I'd like to see that they work properly before I start spending too much time trying to run these failures. I want to make sure that they work properly, that the ICAS messages all come up properly, and that we can actually follow it through to a successful conclusion. If I just cut the hydraulic system and nothing ever works again, the backup systems don't kick in, then there's no real point to it. The whole point of having the failures is let's realistically execute some failure handling, and can we handle it? Can we get the airplane back on the ground again? Approach checklist.
Briefing.
Complete. Completed. Confirmed.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Seatbelts.
On. On. On.
Aero rep.
2996 set.
2996 set minimum.
1158 feet set.
1158 set. Engine mode selector.
Normal.
Approach checklist complete.
Cool. Getting there. I feel like we might need to kind of... We've got about 30 miles to go. More importantly, how much time do we have here? 50:57, so 7 minutes until we get to cycling. As long as we maintain actually 1,000 feet per minute, we're okay. All right. Maybe that's a little early with the brakes there. As long as we can maintain a descent of at least 1,000 feet per minute, we should be down at cycling level before we get to... We should be level before we get to cycling. Des Moines traffic, American 1379, 30 miles south of the field, setting up for a straight-in ILS from runway 31, estimating the ILS in 7 minutes.
Checked.
I thought I muted you, buddy. Stop listening to me. Not a busy airport on the VATSIM network, I wouldn't think. I haven't decided yet what we're going to do when we're going to do the next leg, but I'm leaning towards probably next Saturday. Saturday seems to work as a nice streaming day. The only disadvantage to Saturday mornings is that, of course, the ATC is generally not available. But in terms of me having free time, certainly that is one of the big days I have free time usually. I'm usually off on Saturdays, and I'm usually Usually home and usually the morning is the best time to kind of do this, so it's kind of what I'm leaning towards for the next one, but we'll see. Yeah, we're getting down there okay. Somewhere off there. Yeah, I forgot how much fun this was though, just to try and see different areas, fly some airspace. The next ones are going to be a little bit more hectic after we go back to DFW. Then we got JFK. We're going to have JFK to LAX, which is going to be a long flight. That's like a good 5-hour flight. We're going to start that early on a Saturday, and we'll still be going. It's going to be longer than my Across the Pond stream. Ew. Which that was a long stream. I spent a lot of time staring at the screens and controlling airplanes last weekend. I think I controlled once in the week since, but it's one of those things where like you do so much, you get such a hectic workload that you tend to get like everyone gets online for CTP and then everyone sort of like fades away for like a week after. It's like I need a vacation from controlling and flying after flying for 8 hours or controlling for 6 hours. I need at least a short break from the VATSIM network after that. Now, is this going to try and do a procedure turn? Because I really don't need it, so I might just do direct to the second cycling here without the... It still wants to do it, doesn't it? Yeah, that's okay. Because what we'll do is we'll put it in heading mode, we'll just intercept the approach anyways. Alright, this is working out not too bad here, about 17 miles to go. Just start bringing the speed back a little bit here.
$1,000 to go.
Checked. Fun to look out the window though and see little parts of America. I wonder who originally proposed this idea of flying over satellite images. Who looked at it and said, do we have the technology? I wonder if it was something where someone sort of proposed it as an idea, can we do this? Or someone had the technology and said, do you want to do this? You know, is there a way to get more realistic scenery? Can we get photorealistic scenery everywhere? Or did someone say, I have technology that will digitize this whole world in a format that you guys can use in Flight Simulator. Do you want to have it for the whole world for the simulator? I wonder who kind of came up with it as the first idea. Alright, let's keep that speed coming back. Probably should actually get my feet on the pedals for this, so I'm ready to go here in a couple minutes when we actually get going here. You're probably shut down at the gate having a coffee already without me. Here comes the power back. $10 miles to go until we intercept final. Alright, I guess we should probably bring the localizer up here on the screen. Planning the turn to Toronto. I will probably be turning off the computer and going and doing something else for the day. And I do promise we will get together and do some ATC at some point. I don't know when, but we'll find some time. It's over there somewhere. It'll become obvious when we turn final. Just a little closer in, just a little bit. Some small town here in Iowa. Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
Start slowing the sucker down. Oh, AI traveler, you've been banished. You've been banished to your room because of COVID. Yeah, nothing to do but flying control. It's a tough life, but I guess you got to do it. Well, maybe I'll join you for something later on, but got to try and take advantage of this day. I got to go to work tomorrow, so I got to try and take advantage of this day to do stuff. Nope, we are now flying for American. We moved on from WestJet a little while ago. Moved into MSFS and we left WestJet behind as well. Alright, I'm going to arm the approach now. Set speed to 180. Set ourselves up to intercept final now. And we can actually go down to 2,800 if we want, so let's go down just a little bit lower. Let's go down to 3,000 just to make sure we're not above the glide slope at any point here. I may have turned just a little bit too early there, but that's okay. Just a little bit more. Oh, I see the airport out there now. There it is.
$2,500.
Flaps 2.
Radar altimeter alive. Speed checked. Flaps 2.
Lokestar.
Checked.
Altstar.
Checked.
Ask you to drop me off food and coffee. It's a hard life. Hold on, wait for it. Well, how do I do it here? Oh, I know how.
Checked. Checked.
Call your flight attendant and ask for coffee. She may not bring it now. Gear down. Gear down. Flaps 3.
Speed checked. Flaps 3. Gear down.
Des Moines traffic, American 1379 is on a 5-mile final, runway 31. Flaps full.
Speed checked. Flaps full.
Landing checklist.
Cabin crew.
Advised.
Auto thrust.
Speed.
Auto brake.
Medium. Medium. Think about it. Brake medium.
ECAM memo.
Landing no blue.
Landing checklist complete.
Alright, nothing enough to do but land. At least they got the auto brake in there, because previously in the checklist the auto brake wasn't in there, and it was so easy to forget. As someone who's never really used an auto brake system before except in the sim, it's such an easy thing to kind of forget to set up in the approach setup if you're not paying attention. Stable. So even just like the highway like interchanges, they look like you can see like it's not perfect. Like the shadows are actually not really that good, but like just as you glance at stuff, like it's so three-dimensional. It looks so good. Autopilot disengaged.
500. 500. 500. 500. 500.
Stupid hills.
400. 300. 300. 300. 300.
We might have to do something about this GPW.
Minimum 200.
I see you. Landing.
Checked.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 5.
Spoilers. Reverse grain. Decel.
Checked. A little tiny bit of bounce on that one, but can't all be perfect, can we? Here we go, we've made it. Leg number 1 of season 7.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until the aircraft has arrived at the gate. You are reminded that all electronic devices should remain turned off until you are in the terminal building. Thank you.
Alright, for this one I have to disarm the spoilers. And that's what triggers the after landing flow. Although I find sometimes it can't retract the flaps. It seems to get stuck with the flaps down. I'll let him finish his flow and see what it's doing. Just a little too far. Oversteered there. Come on, beep beep, get out of the way. Demo traffic, American 1379 is clear of runway 31, taxiing Delta, crossing runway 05 to the apron. Or is it 04? After landing flow. After landing
Flaps.
checklist. Retracted.
Spoilers.
Disarmed.
APU.
Start.
Radar.
Off.
Predictive wind shear system.
Off.
After landing checklist complete.
Alright, there we go. Back to the terminal building and away we go. Welcome to Des Moines. Welcome to Iowa. Alright, I've been watching some videos on the playlist, and some of them are in there double. That's clear left and right.
Clear right side.
It's weird that the videos are in there twice because like that's a YouTube algorithm thing. Like I can, the playlists are almost like tags. I tag them up as I add them. So if they're in the list twice, that is weird. I may have to go and check and see if I can change that. Maybe I have turned it into put it into the list twice, but yeah, the way that you manage your playlists, or at least the way that I manage them from the videos individually, not to playlist as a whole. Like I just add them to a playlist from the video screen, so it should only add it once. So it's weird that it adds it more than once. We'll have to look into that. Now I was taught that you shouldn't be landing the Airbus in managed speed mode. That you should for the landing you should have it in manual speed mode. Maybe there's a different disagreement, or maybe there's an SOP thing here, but you should have it in speed mode, not in manual speed mode, not in managed mode for landing. But maybe I need to go and reread the manual. But I do remember it saying that at some point, that at some point you should switch it from managed speed to manual speed for the landing itself. But there's oftentimes there's as many ways to operate an airplane as there are pilots out there. So certainly for as many ways to operate an airplane as there are airlines out there. All right, now we got to figure out which one is Charlie 9 Alpha. Charlie 5 Alpha, sorry. Charlie 5 Alpha is probably this one here. Yeah, it's this one here. Alright, let's get the taxi light off. Marshaller's in sight. I'm not sure if the jet bridge is going to work at this one, but we're going to try it. Just going to go outside for the self-marshal here, since I don't have any GSX yet. Not even a center line to park on, so good enough for me. All right. Parking checklist. Shutdown checklist. Parking checklist.
APU bleed.
Cabin crew, the aircraft is secure. Please open doors. Thank you.
On.
Engines.
Off.
Seatbelts.
Off.
Exterior lights.
Nav logo. Nav logo on.
Fuel pumps.
Off.
Parking brake and shocks.
On and don't know. On and in.
Parking checklist complete.
Alright, let's just mute him again because I don't need him anymore. Goodbye. And what I do need, however, is some FS2 crews. So let's see if I can, or some pushback express. I'm not sure if that jet bridge will move. I think the last time I tried to come here, the jet bridge did not move. So let's see if it's going to move here or not. Just launching a pushback express to open that up. Actually, what I can probably do without even using pushback express is I should be able to come here. And if the PAX bridge is going to move, we can do that, but it's not going to move. So, do I have pushback express working? I do. Pushback express is working. Let's see if we can call for some stairs. Stairs will usually not work if there's not stairs in the immediate vicinity. It doesn't look like it's going to work, so all I'm going to do is just open the door and push people out the door. It literally will not let me do it here. There it goes. Now I figured it out. Just because that's what sets off the self-loading cargo to unload all my people, and that's it. We are done. Pilot's life has automatically triggered. Next is our flight back to DFW. So there we go. First flight we've done in this for about a month and a bit now, but that was tons of fun. Obviously, I'm still relatively new to this airplane. I'm learning some stuff still. You know, we're going to have to have some discussions and figure out what all we're going to do here and how we're going to operate. But
222 gate Alpha 1, push and start nose to the east.
I could deploy the slide. Managed is better for wind shear. The flaps will handle the gap. See, and that's what I was told. Like they will, like even in manual mode, when you're on approach, the aircraft will handle. Will average the speed together. It will not change the power instantly to change the airspeed, but it will look at the ground speed and try to maintain a constant ground speed. I'll have to go and reread those sections because, yeah, obviously agree to disagree on that right now. But I do appreciate the feedback on a lot of the operation stuff, and I'm going to try to keep that in mind for the future. Some of the stuff I may choose to do again, some of it I may not. Oh, there you go. Off you go again. But nevertheless, like I do appreciate the feedback because this is an airplane that I have not operated. I'm not terribly familiar with it, so I'm learning it, and I'm kind of getting back into it. I flew it quite a lot. I flew the 320 quite a lot in the P3D world, but I haven't flown it very much in Microsoft Flight Simulator. But it's a good airplane. The fly-by-wire airplane will get you from A to B. It's not perfect. There's quite a few shortcomings of it right now. I don't know if you saw that on the engine gauges, but the secondary engine instruments are not even beginning to be realistically bottled. So the oil pressure just is basically at 400 psi all the time in flight, which probably would blow up an engine if that happened in the real world. Certainly blow up some oil lines anyways, but the VNAV's not there, but certainly the LNAV, the FMS works quite well for getting you from point A to point B. You know, a lot of the switches at least do something in the flight deck, but I'd look forward to seeing a little bit more system depth. We'll have to play with the failures in the future as well and see what we can find out there. Yeah, it's not a bad airplane to fly. It certainly gets us through, and it's really, at this point, it's sort of just tiding me over until I get to that 737. That's really what it's doing. Like, it lets me work for American. I didn't get stuck flying the CRJ for another whole 8 or 10 legs, and then the PMDG737 releases, and I don't get to fly it for quite a few weeks. It gets me into an operator that I can very quickly change over from the 320 to the 37 when it comes out. So I'm looking forward to that. And it's going to be soon by the sounds of it, so yeah, why not number the gate in MSFS on the ground? Yeah, it's the scenery that I have. There's just no gate numbers, so I don't know why. It's sort of a half effort scenery. It's not the best scenery in the world, but it's not terrible. It's a little bit better than the default, anyways. There's a little bit of ground cloud, and the building looks a little bit more realistic than it otherwise would in the default scenery. It's not terrible. It gets the job done. It's a little better than the default. KDFW, yeah, that was, again, that one, KDFW was one of the Microsoft Flight Simulator airports. They put a lot of effort into their airports when they do, for the most part. And that being said, there have been a few I've gone to where I was extremely disappointed. Toronto City was one of the ones where it's supposedly a detailed airport. Not at all happy with it. It's not nearly as detailed as it could be, and that's why last week FSM Studios released their own version of City Center, Toronto City Center, because yeah, the default, the Microsoft Flight Simulator version is better than if it was just a bunch of blocky default versions of buildings, but there's a lot of stuff missing. A lot of the textures are very simplified for what is a supposedly detailed airport. It's not that well detailed. There's a few custom modeled buildings, but it's not nearly as good as it could be and should be. So yeah, FSM Studios does a fantastic job with their scenery. I think that their scenery would probably be very worthwhile. Like I said, I was overall, when I first started flying in there, I was very disappointed with what Asobo had done with City Center. They could have done so much better, and they just did a few basic buildings and said, okay, it's a detailed airport now, and it did not reach the level that some of the other detailed airports did. So I was disappointed by that. I didn't think it was as well done as it could be or should be. But regardless, we're here. Welcome to Des Moines, Iowa. We have got our first leg of a pilot's life done, and yeah, I'm gonna call it a day there. But thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for flying with me. I hope you have enjoyed the
222 taxi runway 31 Foxtrot Delta, hold short runway 31 Des Moines.
I hope you've enjoyed this flight, and I look forward to flying with you guys all again real soon. Probably Saturday we'll do it again. I don't know if I'm going to have any time for ATC streaming this week. Probably not. It's going to be a busy week, working nights, so probably the next time I stream will probably be the next Pilot's Life leg, which will be right back to DFW again from Des Moines here. But probably next Saturday morning we'll do that. In the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you had fun. Travis, I'm sorry we can't stick around for your arrival. It looks like you still have... Are you even there anymore? Where did you go? You vanished off the network again. Either you're having the same modem issues I have, or your sim crashed. I hope it's just the connection issues and that the sim's at least still running. Anyways, thank you guys so much for flying with me today, watching, enjoying the channel, and as always, stay safe and healthy out there. I'll see you guys all real soon.